distant age when there were no streets, no lamps, no clocks to remind people that night had arrived, darkness descended quietly, like heavy clouds moving across the sky. It crept between the trees and draped itself over the cold rocks, signaling that it was time for rest. Humanity understood without asking. The setting sun closed the doors of daily life. They lit fires at the heart of caves or against their walls, small flames flickering against the stone. People gathered close, their faces glowing with a soft orange light, their bodies wrapped in the skins of the animals they had hunted. Sleep in that time was not a private act, but a communal one. Men, women, and children lay side by side, huddled together for warmth and protection. Night was both a shelter and a mystery. Sleep came naturally, not measured in hours, but guided by the rhythm of nature itself. There was no separation between rest and survival. To sleep was to regain strength for the hunt, to prepare for the unknown dangers of the next dawn. For those early humans, fire was more than warmth. It was a guardian against predators, a symbol of safety, and a companion through the long hours of darkness. Its crackling sounds blended with the whispers of the wind outside, until the eyes grew heavy and dreams carried them away. Sleep in the Stone Age was deep, primal, and without interruption, a surrender to the cycles of the earth. It was the language of survival written in silence. In Mesopotamia, among the lands of rivers and fertile soil, people began to see sleep not only as a need, but as a gift from the gods. The Sumerians believed that the night was a realm where humans touched the divine. Sleep was spoken of in hymns and carved into clay tablets. Dreams were considered messages, whispers from the gods carried through the silence of the night. Kings and priests often sought meaning in these visions, believing they revealed warnings, blessings, or guidance for the future. In Babylon, where towering ziggurats reached toward the heavens, sleep was tied to ritual. Before resting, incense was burned and prayers were recited, as though the boundary between wakefulness and dreams was a sacred gate. People believed that by honoring the gods before sleep, their souls would travel safely through the mysterious landscapes of the night. Among the Assyrians, warriors who marched under the banner of conquest, rest was valued as strength. Soldiers needed deep, uninterrupted sleep to face battles at dawn. In their tablets and writings, there are descriptions of kings who saw visions in the night, dreams that shaped their decisions and gave rise to empires. For them, sleep was not weakness, it was a hidden source of power. And then came the Nile, where Egypt carved its story in stone. To the ancient Egyptians, sleep and dreams were part of the great order of Ma'at, the balance of the universe. They believed the soul, the Ba, could leave the body at night and wander through unseen realms before returning at dawn. Temples dedicated to healing often had chambers where people would lie down, seeking divine dreams that could cure sickness or answer questions of fate. The priests interpreted these dreams as if they were sacred texts written by the gods themselves. In this world of pyramids and eternal sand, sleep was not merely rest, it was a rehearsal for the afterlife. Closing one's eyes was like stepping into a small death, a nightly journey that mirrored the soul's path after the final breath. To dream was to glimpse eternity, and to awaken was to be reborn with the rising sun. Across the vast lands of India, ancient texts spoke of sleep as one of the essential states of life. In the Vedas and the Upanishads, it was described as a doorway where the soul touched its deepest essence. They saw sleep as sacred, a return to the origin of being. Dreams carried truths about the self, illusions of the mind, and reflections of karma. Yogis and sages sought to control even their dreams, aiming for a state of awareness within rest, a practice that later came to be known as Yoga Nidra, the yoga of sleep. Further east in China, philosophers of Taoism and Confucianism reflected on the mystery of the night. Sleep was harmony, a balance of yin and yang, the union of stillness and movement. Dreams were seen as journeys of the spirit, a crossing from the material to the immaterial. In ancient medical texts, sleep was described as vital to health, the time when the body restored its energy, when Qi, the life force, flowed back into its natural order. To lose sleep was to fall out of harmony with the universe. In the lands of Greece, where myth and philosophy intertwined, sleep was personified as a god. Hypnos, with his gentle touch, was said to close the eyes of men and lead them into the realm of dreams. His brother Thanatos was death itself, and together they reminded mortals that each night's rest was a rehearsal for eternity. Dreams in Greece were sacred. Temples of Asclepius invited the sick to sleep within their walls, hoping for healing visions that the priests would interpret. Philosophers like Aristotle pondered the meaning of dreams, asking whether they came from the soul, the body, or the divine. Rome inherited much of Greece's wisdom. In its grand empire, where soldiers and merchants traveled vast distances, sleep was both necessity and luxury. Writers spoke of midday rest, the siesta, a pause in the labor of life. For Roman generals, dreams could predict victory or disaster, and for common citizens, sleep was the only escape from the weight of the empire's demands. Pillows stuffed with feathers, oils to calm the mind, and rituals of the night marked their pursuit of peaceful rest. Yet even in their glory, they knew that sleep humbled all men, emperor and slave alike. In the lands of Islam, where knowledge flourished under the light of faith, sleep was woven into the rhythm of daily life. Guided by the teachings of the Prophet, people found balance between wakefulness and rest. The night was divided, a portion for sleep, a portion for prayer, and a portion for reflection. Scholars such as Ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna, wrote in their great medical texts about the importance of rest. He explained that sleep restores the body, sharpens the mind, and heals the spirit, while sleeplessness could bring imbalance and illness. Dreams held a sacred place in this world. They were considered one of the 3 parts of prophecy, a channel through which the faithful could receive guidance or warning. Great rulers and simple villagers alike awaited the meaning of their dreams, interpreted by scholars who had mastered this subtle art. In their eyes, sleep was not an escape from life, but a bridge between the human and the divine. As centuries passed and Europe entered its long medieval night, sleep was shaped by faith and survival. In stone castles and wooden cottages, nights were cold and darkness seemed endless. People often divided their rest into two parts: a first sleep soon after dusk and a second sleep closer to dawn. In the hours in between, they prayed, whispered secrets, tended to their homes, or even visited neighbors. For them, sleep was not one unbroken silence, but a rhythm that matched the flicker of candlelight and the tolling of church bells. Monks in their monasteries treated the night as sacred, rising from their beds at fixed hours to chant and pray. Their discipline reminded all that sleep was not only for the body, but also for the soul. Yet in the villages, sleep was more fragile. Families shared the same bed to fight the cold. Children nestled between parents, and the fire burned low. Dreams were often seen as omens, messages from heaven or whispers of the devil, and people clung to prayer as a shield against the fears that visited them in the night. Still, even in those centuries of hardship, sleep carried the same eternal promise. With every dawn came renewal. The cock's crow broke the silence and a new day began, as if the night's darkness had never been. With the rise of the Renaissance, light began to return not only to art and science, but also to the way humans understood their own bodies. Sleep, once wrapped in mystery and superstition, became a subject of curiosity and study. Scholars, philosophers, and physicians started to ask questions. What truly happens when the eyes close? Why do dreams come? And what do they mean? In the homes of Florence, Paris, and London, the rhythm of sleep began to change. Oil lamps and later candles stretched the hours of wakefulness into the night. Families gathered around tables, reading, writing, or working by dim light, stealing time from darkness. Sleep was no longer simply dictated by the sun. It began to bend to the will of human invention. In these centuries, beds themselves became symbols of status. In noble courts, great wooden frames adorned with curtains and carvings turned sleep into a ritual of wealth. In humbler homes, straw mattresses and wool blankets served the same eternal purpose, a place to surrender to rest. The body did not care for gold or silk. It cared only for silence and stillness. The Enlightenment carried the study of sleep further. Physicians documented the cycles of rest, connecting sleeplessness to illness and encouraging balance in daily life. Dreams, though still mysterious, were debated in new ways. Some argued they were random fragments of the mind, while others insisted they carried hidden truths. Then came the great revolution of industry. The factories of the 18th and 19th centuries demanded long hours and endless labor. Smoke filled the skies, machines thundered through the night, and the natural rhythm of sleep was broken. Workers slept less, often in cramped quarters, their bodies aching from toil. The world was no longer guided by the rising and setting of the sun, but by the ticking of clocks and the demands of production. Sleep, once sacred, was now often sacrificed. Yet even in the shadow of machines, the human spirit longed for rest. Writers and poets described the beauty of dreams as escapes from the harshness of reality. Doctors warned of the dangers of sleepless nights, and some began to advocate for the restoration of balance. In this struggle, humanity was reminded that no progress could erase its need for the quiet refuge of sleep. The 20th century opened a new chapter in humanity's relationship with sleep. Electricity had already transformed the night, filling cities with light and stretching the hours of activity well beyond sunset. Streets glowed, factories worked through the dark, and homes no longer surrendered to silence when the sun disappeared. But with this gift came a challenge. The natural rhythm of rest was disrupted more than ever before. Scientists, now armed with new tools, turned their eyes to the mystery of sleep. In quiet laboratories, they connected wires to the heads of volunteers and recorded the electric whispers of the brain. From these lines of ink and wave, they discovered patterns, stages of light, sleep, deep sleep, and the strange world of rapid eye movement, or REM, where dreams are born. For the first time, humanity could see its own nights revealed on paper, cycles repeating like music hidden inside the mind. Psychology, too, entered the story. Sigmund Freud, with his book, The Interpretation of Dreams, claimed that within dreams lay the hidden desires of the unconscious. Others disagreed, arguing that dreams were fragments of memory, scattered pieces of thought stitched together in the silence of night. Still, people listened with wonder, for at last there were names and theories for the visions that had haunted and inspired them for millennia. Sleep was no longer seen only as rest. It became medicine, science, and even industry. Doctors studied insomnia, sleepwalking, and nightmares as conditions of the mind and body. Hospitals built sleep clinics, places where patients were watched through the night, their breaths and heartbeats recorded to uncover the secrets of sleeplessness. But even as knowledge expanded, the world itself moved faster. Cities pulsed with neon lights, airplanes crossed continents, and work stretched across time zones. The human body, ancient and unchanged, still longed for darkness and silence, but the modern age often denied it. People lived between exhaustion and stimulation, their sleep shortened, their dreams interrupted by the hum of machines. And yet, each night, no matter the century or the city, sleep returned. It came softly like a tide that no one could resist. In the quiet of bedrooms, in the hum of trains, in the cabins of ships crossing oceans, humanity still surrendered to its oldest companion, the silence of night. In the 21st century, the story of sleep became more fragile, yet more fascinating than ever before. Screens glowed in every pocket, casting blue light into the eyes of millions long after the sun had set. Cities no longer knew true darkness. Satellites watched from above, and highways stretched like rivers of headlights through the night. Humanity had conquered distance, conquered time zones, but in doing so, it had waged a quiet war against its own rest. Sleep, once simple, now became something to fight for. People spoke of insomnia as if it were a shadow following them. Work shifted into the hours once reserved for dreams, deadlines replaced sunsets, and the hum of devices replaced the whisper of wind in the trees. The night was filled with notifications, reminders, alarms, small electric voices pulling humanity away from silence. And yet, as always, there was a countercurrent. Scientists deepened their studies, revealing that sleep was not wasted time but essential. A healer of memory, a guardian of health, a silent craftsman repairing every cell. The term sleep hygiene entered daily language, reminding people that to sleep was not weakness, but wisdom. People sought comfort in old rituals rediscovered, dimming the lights, drinking warm tea, listening to soft rain sounds or slow voices telling stories, echoes of the caves, the temples, and the fires that once guarded our ancestors through the night. Technology, though disruptive, also became a helper. Apps that tracked dreams, machines that soothed breath, and guided meditations that returned the restless mind to stillness. In bedrooms across the globe, people once again realized that to close one's eyes was to return to something ancient. Sleep was not an interruption of life, but part of its rhythm, a hidden half of existence where the mind traveled, healed, and imagined. And so, despite the neon and the noise, humanity still leans into the dark, searching for the same silence that cradled the first sleepers in caves and temples, under stars and beside rivers. Sleep remains what it always was, a journey inward, a surrender to mystery, and the most universal story ever told. Sleep is the thread that binds every age, every culture, every human who ever lived. From the flicker of firelight on cave walls to the glow of digital screens in modern cities, the night has always invited us to surrender, to drift into silence. The world changes, empires rise, machines roar, lights spread across the earth. Yet sleep remains, timeless, patient, waiting for us to close our eyes. It is not merely rest, but a return to nature, to balance, to the quiet truth that beneath all our struggles and inventions we are still human. And as long as there is night, we will dream.